If you just look around you for a second, I mean, really look, you might see a houseplant, or maybe you're outside looking at a tree, or you could be looking at, a single cell and a drop of water. Every single one is a solution. It's a solution to a problem that evolution has been working on for, 450 million years? From a tiny cell to a giant redwood taller than a skyscraper.
It's an incredible masterclass in adaptation, really, and the sources you sent over do a fantastic job mapping out the core strategy. So I think our mission for this deep dive is to really chart those big evolutionary milestones. We'll move through 5 key groups: algae, fungi, which we have to talk about, then bryophytes, pteridophytes, and finally the gymnosperms.
Okay, good. So before we jump in, let's lay some groundwork. A couple of key terms we need. First is phylogeny. That's the evolutionary family tree, right?
Exactly. It's the family tree. And it's built on 2 things: what a plant looks like, its morphology, and its DNA, the molecular data.
Got it. And the second big concept, this one seems to be the engine of the whole story, the alternation of generations.
Yes. If you get this one concept, honestly, the entire story of plant evolution just clicks into place. It's this biological tug-of-war between 2 different phases of life.
2 phases. Okay, what are they?
So on one side, you've got the haploid phase. We call that the Gametophyte. Its job is to make gametes, the sex cells.
And the other side?
That's the diploid phase, the Sporophyte. And, as the name suggests, it makes spores. The whole narrative we're about to trace is just which of those 2 phases becomes the dominant one. Bigger, more independent, the one you actually see.
That's a great frame. But one last thing before we get our feet wet, so to speak. The sources make a big point that this diversity isn't spread out evenly across the globe.
Oh, it's a critical point, absolutely. Plant diversity is it's packed in near the equator, in the tropics.
Way there.
It's the warm climate, high rainfall, and just immense productivity. The numbers are actually staggering. These tropical forests, they cover less than 10% of the Earth's land, but they contain something like 90% of all the world's plant species. It's the ultimate hotspot for evolution.
90%.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that really sets the scene. So let's dive in. Section 1. We're going back about 400 million years. Life is in the water, and it's about to make a huge leap.
The biggest leap. And land plants really owe that entire leap out of the pond to their ancestors, their closest living relatives, the green algae. It's this incredible evolutionary debt. Even back then in the water, you see this explosion of different forms. So much experimentation.
Right, because we think of algae and we picture, pond scum. But it starts with things like Chlamydomonas, which is just a single microscopic cell.
Exactly. The plant body of an alga is called a phallus. And the variety is it's wild. You go from single cells to these organized colonies like volvox. There are even these looser colonies called pomeloid colonies where the number of cells and the shape is not even constant. It's like a loose commune of cells.
And then you have the other end of the scale entirely, the giants.
Oh, yeah. The kelps, marine brown algae that can form these massive underwater forests. Some of them can reach, 100 meters in length?
100 meters. So you're going from microscopic to a skyscraper, all within the algae.
And that variety in structure is perfectly matched by variety in how they reproduce.
This is a huge step, right? Moving from simple identical cells, fusing to something much more complex. Where does that start?
It starts with the simplest form, isogamy. This is where the 2 gametes that fuse, they're basically identical. Morphologically, physiologically, you can't tell them apart. We see that in things like eulothrix.
Okay, so that's stage 1. Then you get the first hints of specialization.
That's anisogamy. Here, the gametes start to look different. You get a smaller, more active one, the microgamete, or male, and a larger, less active one, the macrogamete. A clear division of labor starts to appear.
And the final step, the one that really paves the way for land plants.
That would be oogamy. This is the big one. It's the fusion of a small, mobile male gamete with a large, and this is the critical part, non-motile egg.
So the egg stays put?
It stays put, it's protected. The organism is now investing a ton of resources into that female gamete, protecting the future embryo. You see this in volvox and fucus. You absolutely need that strategy if you're ever going to survive on dry land.
Now, before we leave the water, we have to touch on fungi. They're not plants, they don't photosynthesize, but they're this parallel story of complexity that the source material brings up.
A crucial parallel story. They're eukaryotes, but with their own unique toolkit. The basic body of a fungus is the mycelium. It's this huge hidden network of tiny threads called hyphae.
Designed to maximize surface area for, what, absorbing food?
Exactly. They digest externally and then absorb the nutrients.
And that body can be organized in a couple of different ways.
Right. Most of the fungi we think of, like mushrooms, are eukarpic. This just means the thallus is differentiated. You have the vegetative part underground, the mycelium, and then a separate specialized reproductive part that pops up, the mushroom.
But some are more, all in on reproduction.
That's a good way to put it. The holocarpic fungi, like Syncytrium. With these, the entire organism, the whole thallus, just converts into a reproductive structure. There's no separation. It's a very efficient, if simpler, strategy.
And one final fascinating point from our time in the water. We still rely on algae for a lot of everyday products.
We really do. Commercially, they're huge for hydrocolloids. These are substances that hold water. Think of algin from brown algae, or carrageen from red algae like Chondrus crispus. It's a thickener in ice cream and toothpaste.
And the one that's indispensable for science.
Agar, of course. From red algae like Gelidium and Gracilaria. I mean, modern microbiology labs couldn't function without agar to grow microbes on. And yeah, it also ends up in jellies.
Okay, time to dry off. Section 2. We're on land. This is where we see just monumental changes needed to survive out of the water. First up, the Bryophytes.
The mosses, the liverworts, these are the amphibians of the plant kingdom.
Amphibians, I like that. Because they live on land, but they have to go back to the water.
To reproduce, exactly. The male gametes, the sperm, literally have to swim through a film of water to reach the egg. We call that zoidogamy.
And structurally, they're still pretty basic.
Very basic. They have no true vascular tissue, so no real xylem or phloem. That means no true roots, stems, or leaves. They just have these simple little threads, rhizoids, mostly just for anchoring themselves.
So this has a huge impact on our alternation of generations story. When you look at a patch of moss, what are you actually seeing? The Gametophyte or the Sporophyte?
You're looking right at the haploid Gametophyte. In Bryophytes, that is the dominant generation. It's the green, leafy, photosynthetic part of the plant.
So where's the Sporophyte?
The diploid Sporophyte is that little stalk with a capsule on top that you sometimes see growing out of the moss. It's small, it's temporary, and it's completely attached to and dependent on the Gametophyte for all of its food.
So the main plant we see is all about making gametes, and the spore-producing part is just a little passenger.
A little passenger, exactly. It's a heteromorphic haplodiplontic life cycle. The haploid phase is king.
And that's what keeps them so small and low to the ground.
It has to. They need to be near that film of water for reproduction.
But there's one bryophyte that's a real superstar. Sphagnum. Peat moss.
Oh, sphagnum is amazing. It creates these huge acidic environments called bogs, and its economic value comes from these big, dead, empty cells in its leaves. They're designed for one thing, holding incredible amounts of water.
Which makes it useful for so many things.
Everything from fuel peat is basically compressed sphagnum to soil amendments and gardening. But a really cool historical note is that during World War I, it was used as a surgical dressing because it's so absorbent and the acidic environment makes it mildly antiseptic.
That's incredible. Okay, now for the real structural revolution. The Pteridophytes. The ferns, the horsetails. This is where plants learn to stand up.
This is the game changer. This is the vascular revolution. Pteridophytes are the first terrestrial plants to have true vascular tissues, xylem for water, phloem for food. This makes them trichiophyta.
And why is that such a big deal? What does it allow them to do?
Well, it allows them to get big. Vascular tissue provides structural support, like a skeleton, so they can grow tall, compete for sunlight, and move water and nutrients efficiently over long distances. And this just completely flips the script on the life cycle. The diploid sporophyte is now the dominant independent plant. The fern you see in the forest, that's the sporophyte.
So they solved the structural problem. But they still had an Achilles heel, right?
They did. For all their structural cleverness, they were still stuck in the past when it came to reproduction. They still needed water for fertilization. Still zoidogamy, swimming sperm, just like the mosses.
So they're like the reptiles of the plant kingdom.
Exactly. It's the perfect nickname. They've conquered the land, but they're still tied to the water to make the next generation.
But even here, in their spores, we see the first steps toward the next big thing.
Yes. The path to seeds starts here. A lot of ferns are homosperous. They just make one kind of spore. But then you see the evolution of heterospore in plants like Selaginella.
Heterospore. Two kinds of spores.
Two kinds. You get large macrospores that grow into female Gametophytes and tiny microspores for the male ones. This is a critical step because it allows the parent plant to provision and protect that female gametophyte, where the embryo will eventually grow. It's pre-packaging.
And the fossil record for these guys is it's spectacular. We're not talking about small ferns here.
No, we are talking about giants. The earliest known vascular plant is Cooksonia, 415 million years old, just a little leafless stalk. But by the Carboniferous period, you have massive tree-like lycopods like Lepidodendron.
The sources said some of their leaves were 80 centimeters long. These were forest-forming trees.
They absolutely were. They formed the huge coal swamps of that era. Their size is just a testament to the power of that new vascular system.
Which sets us up perfectly for the final step, ultimate freedom from water, the Gymnosperms.
The seed plants. The development of the seed is the adaptation that finally breaks that chain to the pond. It's a hardy, protected, self-sufficient package that lets them colonize pretty much everywhere.
And gymnosperm means naked seed.
Right. The ovules aren't enclosed in an ovary like in a flowering plant. They're just out there, usually on the scales of a cone. And the plant you see, the pine tree, the cycad, that is the sporophyte, totally dominant.
And our poor Gametophyte, which was once the king, is now basically microscopic.
Almost, yeah. It's completely reduced and totally dependent on the parent sporophyte. The male Gametophyte is now just a few cells inside the protective wall of a pollen grain.
They also developed some amazing partnerships to get nutrients.
That adaptability is key. Pine trees, Pinus, have roots that form mycorrhiza, this amazing symbiotic relationship with fungi that helps them absorb water and nutrients.
And cycads.
Cycas has these special coralloid roots that house nitrogen-fixing cyanobacteria, so they can basically make their own fertilizer.
And reproduction is now an airborne affair. No more swimming.
Total freedom. Pollen is carried by the wind, that's anemophily. And then fertilization happens when a pollen tube grows directly to the egg. Siphonogamy. No external water needed at all.
This is where it gets, for me, just mind-bendingly cool. When you hold a single pine seed in your hand, you're not holding one organism. You're holding 3 distinct generations of life at once.
It's an evolutionary time capsule. It's one of the most elegant things in biology. Let's break that down.
Okay, generation 1, the outside.
That's the seed coat, and that tissue comes from the parent sporophyte. The second mother plant. It's the protective packaging.
Generation 2, the food inside.
That's the food supply, the endosperm. And it's the haploid female Gametophyte. What's amazing is that it develops before fertilization. It's packing a lunch for an embryo that doesn't even exist yet.
And finally, generation 3.
The new embryo itself, 2N. The baby sporophyte, a result of fertilization, tucks safely inside its food supply, which is inside its protective coat. 3 generations, all in one tiny package. It's brilliant.
And we even see fossils that hint at what's coming next after the Gymnosperms.
That's right. The source material mentions the Catoniales. They're these extinct seed ferns from the Mesozoic. And they had their seeds inside these little fleshy, berry-like things called cupules. They weren't true fruits, but you can see evolution experimenting with enclosing the seed, protecting it even more.
Which is exactly what the flowering plants would perfect later.
Precisely.
So when we pull back and look at this whole journey, from algae to pine tree, what's the big takeaway?
The central narrative is just so clear. It's the story of the decline and fall of the Gametophyte and the powerful, triumphant rise of the Sporophyte.
You go from the Gametophyte being the big, green, dominant plant in mosses
to the Sporophyte becoming this huge, independent, vascular giant with the Gametophyte reduced to just a few cells hidden inside it.
It's a complete role reversal, all driven by the challenges of living on land.
It's the perfect evolutionary solution.
So, a final thought for you to chew on, building on that idea of the fossil record in Cooksonia. It's amazing that we can point to a fossil, that little leafless stalk, and say, there, 415 million years ago, that's the first definite vascular plant.
It's a fantastic anchor point in time, but you have to think about all the time before that. Our whole understanding, our entire phylogeny, is built only on the things that we're lucky enough to fossilize. Imagine the sheer genetic diversity, the countless evolutionary experiments among all those soft-bodied algae and early life forms that just disappeared.
We're only seeing the winners that left a trace.
Exactly. We can only imagine the vast library of evolutionary ideas that simply dissolved back into the water, completely lost to time.